The Trump says that their team is en route to Russia to try to convince Putin to accept Ukraine's peace treaty or ceasefire deal.
Meeting with Vladimir Putin scheduled.
I won't comment on that, but we had a great success yesterday. We have a full ceasefire if it kicks in. We have to see. It's up to Russia now, but we've had a good relationship with both parties, actually, and we'll see. We'll be knowing people are going to Russia right now as we speak, and hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia. And if we do, I think that would be 80% of the way to getting this horrible bloodbath finished. It's a bloodbath is taking place over there. On average, 2,000 to 3,000 young people a week are being killed in that stupid war that would have never happened if I were president.
So Trump is basically saying that his people, right? For those of you that may not be familiar, yesterday we talked about it. Ukraine, right? Russia has been in a war for 3 years now. They've recently marked the 3-year anniversary. And Zelensky, although he was, buffing his chest up and insulting Donald Trump in the Oval Office and J.D. Vance, obviously once Trump said, we're going to start pulling resources if you guys don't start getting your lives together and you need to bend the knee. He agreed to a ceasefire deal, which also include the United States of America having mineral rights so that we can recoup some of the money that we've given to Ukraine. Now, the other part of the equation, just like any relationship, is Russia has to come to the table and accept the deal. Now, the ball is 100% in their court. They cannot sit here and say that it is Ukraine's fault anymore. They can't say that it's their fault that we're still fighting this war, that Zelensky doesn't want to end it. Yes, we can hold Zelensky accountable for the things that he's done up to this point, especially when it came to kidnapping people and putting them in the front lines and throwing them in war. But here's Caroline that speaks on exactly what's going on. She says that they are at the 10-yard line for peace, world peace, especially when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. Check it out.
For more, let's bring in White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. I want to get to Ukraine in just a moment, but first of all, Caroline, some pretty good news on the inflation front. A surprising report that during his first full month of his presidency, inflation dropped to 2.8% year over year, reduction of 0.2% month over month. The president also pointed out a moment ago with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin, that egg prices are down 30% in recent days.
Wait a minute. What happened to all of the people before we get to this whole Russia thing? What happened to all of the people that said, why ain't inflation down immediately? Egg prices are still crazy. What happened to all of the people that was sitting there whining and complaining? How come they won't bring themselves to the front of the congregation and saying, okay, well, we're going to give Trump credit for actually lowering egg prices by 30% and having these peace deals and these peace treaties? How come the people are not bringing themselves forward and saying, you know what? Yep, Trump is doing a phenomenal job. Yep, they did bring down egg prices. Yep, they do have things taken care of. Yep, inflation is going down. Yep, he is absolutely taking care of it. I just want to make sure that we all on the same page. I don't want us to forget. I don't want us to, because y'all will say something and then y'all won't bring yourselves back forward to say, you know what? I did say that. You know what? It is things changing. Less than 2 months into his administration, things have already started changing. Let's get back to
more. Let's bring in White House. First full month of his presidency, inflation dropped to 2.8% year over year, reduction of 0.2% month over month. The president also pointed out a moment ago with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin, that egg prices are down 30% in recent days, and oil sits right now at about $67 a barrel, and that's something that consumers really care about.
Yeah, that's right, John. And it's a promise that President Trump is keeping to the American people. This administration is wholeheartedly focused every single day on driving down costs for the American people through massive deregulatory efforts and, of course, by unleashing American energy dominance, which we know will end the inflation nightmare created by the previous administration. And this CPI report today is welcome news, and it's not what the so-called experts or the mainstream media predicted. They continue continue to cast doubt on President Trump and his economic agenda, even though he has a proven record of it working in his first term. And if you look at that report today, inflation has gone down. The core inflation index is actually the lowest it's been in 4 years. Gas prices have fallen. Airline fares have fallen. And also today, we saw two massive companies announce new investments in manufacturing in the United States of America. The Japanese beer company Asahi announced new manufacturing, new jobs in Wisconsin. All of these companies are realizing that the United States of America is the best place to do business, the lowest taxes in the world. That's what they will have under this president.
Wait a minute. So not only are we lowering inflation and the price of groceries and eggs, but we also have more companies that's choosing to invest in the United States of America. Are you telling me that tariffs are working? What? No way. You don't say.
Caroline, speaking of oil, for years, since 2022, the Treasury Department's been issuing this waiver. It's Russian General License 8L that allows other countries to continue to buy Russian oil using the U.S. dollar, the U.S. payment system. Biden's waiver expired at midnight last night. Did the president renew it? Because if he didn't, it could send oil prices up by $5 a barrel.
Well, I don't know whether the president did or not. From my understanding, he hasn't, Jackie, but I can definitely double check and get back with you. I would defer you also to the Department of Treasury. But when it comes to Russia right now, as you know, the president's team continues to be in correspondence with the Russians. In fact, our national security advisor, Mike Waltz, had a call with his Russian counterpart today in a pursuit of ending this war and striking a peace deal with Russia and with Ukraine. We had great progress on that front yesterday with the Secretary of State and our national security advisor having those peace talks in Saudi Arabia. The Ukrainians have finally agreed to a ceasefire and have agreed to this long-term peace plan. And we expect, we hope, and we urge the Russians to do the same. And our team is currently working on getting this done.
So in recent days, up until recent days, I guess, the president was being criticized for abandoning Ukraine, siding with Putin. Now a ceasefire appears to be potentially within grasp. What's the over and under there at the White House as to whether or not Putin bites on this?
Well, we certainly hope that he does. And again, our team has been working diligently on negotiating a peace plan that works for both sides to finally end this war. And in any good plan, any good deal, both sides are going to be a little bit happy about some things and maybe unhappy about others. But that's how you negotiate a good deal. And that's what Secretary of State Rubio and our national security advisor were working hard on yesterday in Saudi Arabia. And again, this is about long-term peace and stability. And look at the tremendous progress that has been made by President Trump and this incredible team. I mean, before President Trump came into office, there was zero chance of a peace deal. Nobody was even talking about that. The only talk about this war in the United States was about sending more blank checks for the American taxpayer who are incredibly tired of funding this effort. And so it's only because of the leadership of President Trump and his peace through strength approach, which the American people and the whole world did see on display in front of the cameras in that Oval Office meeting with Zelensky, that we are now at a place, we are on the 10th yard line of peace in this nearly 3-year-long war. Thousands of people have died, and President Trump is working hard to end the bloodshed, and now it's up to the Russians to agree to this plan.
Can we give Trump some credit? Okay, all right. Y'all don't even have to give Trump credit on anything up to this point. Even though it's people in the chat, and I haven't been able to substantiate this yet, but feel free to email me at antondaniels413@gmail.com. Even though there are people in the chat that is saying, yo, USAID was shredding documents and all of these emails and stuff going on, even though we see Democrats trying to divert our attention away from the successes, if we get a ceasefire and a peace deal, will y'all then give Trump some credit for getting us out of war again? We got no new wars while he was in office the first term. We're on a 10-yard line, according to his spokesperson, the White House press secretary, of getting this deal done. He's already got Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire. Russia, his people is flying over to meet with Putin over in Russia today. Can we please, if Trump gets this done, will you then be able to give him some credit, or are you still going to say that he hateful, he racist, he's not what's best for America, none of that type of stuff? They say, for example, because I've seen Democrats come up off the talking point and saying, oh, he just wants to make his billionaire friends richer. I went and did the research today. Before Trump became president and he went into his inauguration on January 20th, Tesla was at an high, and Elon Musk's was $88 billion richer than he is today. So Elon Musk, for example, which is one of the reasons that he's stressed. It's another reason why I believe that Vivek Ramaswamy wind up getting off the Doge team, because I don't think he wanted this type of heat once they started finding what they wanted to find. Trump has lost an estimated $180 to $90 billion off of his net worth. So who is benefiting off of the Trump campaign? How do you benefit from something when they know that the stock markets are going to be in turmoil? You know that your equity is directly tied to whatever the valuation of your company is. He knows that there's going to be half of the country that protests against him. And if he's lost an estimated 180 billion plus within 2 to 3 months, how is he benefiting from the Trump administration and him getting richer? I'm sorry, Elon Musk. I'm sorry. Elon Musk, did I say Trump? Elon Musk lost an estimated $180 billion off of his net worth since Trump became president. And he's been going through with a fine-tooth comb to find out where all of the fraud, waste, and abuse is with the Department of Government Efficiency. You know what I meant, C. Diggs. I'm sorry if I misquoted it. So how can the Democrats now use that as a talking point when Elon Musk is the one that's suffering from it?
Caroline, you mentioned that Mike Waltz had a phone call with his counterpart, and I'm hoping you might be able to shed some light on a Bloomberg report that just crossed. It says that Russian officials hadn't discussed with the U.S. The agreement that was agreed to in Saudi Arabia, and that they find that framework unacceptable,
Raph, he is losing money
saying
dough.
that they'll need to ask for their own conditions before agreeing.
Because it is much more beneficial for you to be quiet and then just continue to profit off of everybody buying your vehicles versus you taking a position and a stance and actually finding out where the fraud, waste, and abuse is, in which they start to segment themselves away from people that don't agree with Trump. And so he then went with what he believed in, and he also wants to save the American taxpayers from themselves of continuing to enable Congress to throw all of your money away and send it over to Ukraine. So there's a lot of people that actually make sacrifices on your behalf, but then they will demonize him and villainize him and say somehow he's getting richer as a result of it. How?
To any sort of a truce, but we've seen in the past Russia has made a series of demands, including that Ukraine should become a neutral nation, cede the territory that it's already occupying, reduce the size of its military. This is sort of predictable from Russia. What was the response plan from the U.S. side if this was the answer that came out?
Well, I won't comment on that report, which was based on anonymous sources, nor will I get ahead of these negotiations with Russia. Again, our team is actively engaged. Mr. Witkoff, Steve Witkoff, the president's special envoy, is making his way to Moscow this week, again, to urge the Russians to sign on to this negotiation, and we hope that they will.
All right, so let's move on to tariffs, because while we had some good...
So we're going to talk about tariffs next, but shout out to the ceasefire deal that the Trump administration has been able to broker with Zelensky and Ukraine. I hope and I pray, and I have all of the confidence in the world that Vladimir Putin and Russia will come to their senses and then agree to a ceasefire, because I can't imagine how this benefits them at all. If they in any remote way want to save their reputation and also want to bolster the relationship that he possibly has, that Trump says that he has with the United States of America, then hopefully he comes to a deal and he agrees to a ceasefire so that they can negotiate a longer term peace deal. If not, then we're going to have to come back to the front of the congregation and address what the issue is. I truly, in my heart, believe that the Trump administration will solve for the problem, that they will get this deal done. And if he does get this deal done, then he will be considered one of the greatest presidents of all time, and he will be considered one of the greatest negotiators of all time.